Estates Radio with your hosts Coco and Gregory, right here on LA Talk Radio.
Hello everyone and welcome to Glam Estates Radio Show. Another Wednesday and we are here again, very excited. Today with me is, of course, Coco Selborn, as always.
Well, hi. How have you been, Gregory?
Hey, hi Coco. And we have a very nice guest today. His name is Patrick Selway and he's our financial planner. He's going to talk, we're all going to chat today about financial planning and how to plan for our future, why real estate is important to include in everyone's portfolio, and of course, how to make and save money.
Well, thank you very much, Gregory and Coco. It's a pleasure to be here, and I hope I can give your listeners some great advice.
Of course.
For sure you will. You've been greatly helpful in many of our different conversations and dialogues over the time we've known each other, and I know you have a lot of great information, and we're very excited that you were able to make it today and help out those people out there who are going to be considering what they're not only thinking about for real estate, but it's important to think about the big picture. And you're the big picture guy.
Definitely.
Well, the first thing I'd like to do is first apologize, because I'm going to talk about things that people don't like to talk about. One, it's not polite to talk about money.
Hey, let's not talk about me,
Yeah.
okay? Oh, wait, that is true. People, yeah.
If your money, that's not polite. The other thing is, when we talk about financial planning, it's usually long-term planning, and we talk about aging. And God forbid we talk about in Southern California, getting old. It's just not discussed. So you put those two together.
Well,
and
if none of us are getting older, it's really the easier way to go.
unfortunately, you can't keep our heads in the sand. So
Can't avoid it.
Yeah, I bring it up and make people feel uncomfortable. So I apologize for that. But you'll be you'll get a lot of good information from me. And hopefully there'll be some aha moments, and you can reach out and get some more information if you need it.
Definitely.
So Patrick, can you tell us, now we know, but can you share with everybody why it is you would be a great asset for people to chat with regard to how long you've been in the business? Tell us a little bit about your background so people are a little more familiar.
Great.
Because, you are going to be talking about their personal stuff, so we better find out a little bit more about you.
Well, what's interesting is I didn't go to school to become a financial planner. I actually went here in California State University, Northridge, and got my first job experience with Procter & Gamble, with a big company, and learned their sales and marketing approach, but left them to go into computers for 13 years. I was in IT sales and consulting, and during that time, I made a lot of money. And I worked with folks that made a lot of money, but I was noticing that a lot of those people were still living paycheck to paycheck. Mm-hmm. So I got very interested. One, I grew up in a big family, and we didn't have money, and money wasn't discussed. So once I started making money, I got real interested in trying to hold on to it. And I ended up having some financial professionals. I had a stockbroker, an insurance agent, CPA, and I had aggressive financial goals, and I got very interested in it. And as I looked around the landscape, I noticed this general lack of financial literacy with just about everybody. And the deeper I looked into it, I saw that there's a great need for financial planning because there was a time when we had one job, we had a pension, Social Security, your home was paid for, and you lived happily ever after.
Right.
Nowadays,
That's where we show up, happily ever after.
yes. Nowadays, the average baby boomer, those are people that were born in 1946 to 64, they've had 10 jobs by the time they're 30. There's no pension. Their house is not going to be paid for. They probably had more than one marriage. So, it's on them to accumulate the assets to, prepare for a comfortable retirement. And believe me, we're just, no one's talking about it and doing it. And what's interesting is most people in my business, in the financial planning world, once you do all the licensing and education and all that stuff, they only want to work with a high net worth, the 1% to 3%ers. And what the firm I have, Retirement Benefits Consulting, we are working and focusing on the mass affluent. Those are people that, they're working, they're raising a family, they're sending the kids to college, they want to retire in comfort. there's a lot of those, the 97 percenters.
Definitely.
So those people really need help, and we'll get referred into the high net worth, but that's not our focus. Those aren't the places we need to be. And what's nice is a radio program like this hopefully can, filter the message out there, so people will, basically prioritize financial planning.
Yay.
For sure.
That's what we're here for.
Yeah,
Liberating the mind.
The need is everybody's got it. I call it a latent need. It's right in the back of the mind. Everybody kind of goes, yeah, I should look into that. So, real estate, we call that an active need. When someone wants to buy real estate, they'll look for a realtor, and as a realtor, you want to make sure you're aware. So that's why you get all that marketing that you do and make sure your brand awareness. I could do the same thing, and no one still would would call me. So we have to educate and tickle that need, latent need, and make it active, so they actually go out and prioritize the need and sit down and find out how they're doing, how to get to the financial goals, and how to thrive and live abundantly. And one strategy, obviously, is to buy a home.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things we teach our clients is you want to accumulate appreciating assets and not depreciating assets. So I'm going to do a quiz. Appreciating or depreciating?
Right.
Ready?
Here we go.
That nice car you drove in on, appreciating or depreciating?
It is depreciating,
Yes.
unfortunately.
But I do appreciate it.
Yes.
But I do
It's
appreciate
appreciated, but it depreciates. Yes. So, and what's interesting?
I especially appreciate it when I get to the stop sign, you got the light and enjoying the breeze.
When
and
you see
there's
yourself
that
in the-
handsome guy off to the right, I'm like, hey.
Yeah, it's a very emotional depreciating asset.
Right.
And especially in this town, Southern California, people will buy very expensive cars, put them on 6 and 7 year mortgages, and they're really financing an asset that will not be worth much.
Mm-hmm.
So we teach people you want to accumulate assets that grow in value, and a home is one of those great assets. And also, it's almost a necessary asset because you have to live someplace, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, if you're paying rent, you're basically paying the landlord's mortgage payment for them. And
Renting versus owing, we've talked many
Yeah.
times.
Oh, okay.
So
Many times about this. It's like very important.
the least you can do for yourself is don't pay someone else's mortgage. That's
Don't help somebody else
just
make
saying.
equity,
You
to
might
make
as well
money.
well,
put it towards something you're going to use.
I'm going to give you, instead of avoidance, not to pay someone else's mortgage, is why you should have your own.
Exactly.
And the reason why is there's tons of reasons. When I work with financial planning clients and I'm working with a homeowner, it's a lot easier to plan.
Mm-hmm.
If they're renters, I go, ooh. First of all, these people are going to move a lot. Every time they move, if they have accounts, I got to do lots of paperwork every single time. And they'll be moving a lot, so there's no stability for them. And when you're trying to accomplish things long term, you need some predictability and stability. So if you're someone that's, I find people in their 20s, they're trying to figure it out, right? And the biggest expense typically is a car, and they're dating and all that stuff. Once they're in their 30s, depending on their maturity level, they could be still trying to figure it out. But usually their careers, they start getting
What
into
was that supposed to mean, huh?
Are you trying to say something
What was
about
that all about?
No, I didn't get married till later, so I was one of those, what do they call that? Adult adolescents for a while.
The one owning a lot of depreciating assets?
No, I because of the lack of money, I was interested in it.
Right.
Just lack of commitment on the other part. But once they're in their 30s, sometimes they'll get married and they'll start, once they get married, they start thinking longer term. When you're not married and single and you don't have your profession, it's hard to think long term. So, and that's a priority. You got to get settled and be in a situation where you know what you're going to do next year or the year after. Once you have that, we work with clients who have a primary goal of getting a house, you got to get what we call your financial house in order, right?
Right.
So you don't want to be in credit card debt. You don't want to have lingering debts, right? You want to make sure one of the financial literacy things that I teach is one component is you want to understand interest. You want to collect it. You don't want to pay it out. So there's a Chinese proverb that I always mention is those who understand interest collect it, those who don't pay it. So if you look at your situation and you see you're just paying a lot of credit card interest,
That's true.
that's not a good thing. So you got to get your house in order. You got to be out of debt. You have to have income and show that that income is sustainable. And it's great that you have to have savings. So we'll come up with a savings plan, and so that they can actually save for the down payment. The more money you have for a down payment, you can tell me I'm not in directly in the real estate world, the better your bargaining position, right?
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Yeah. The more you
And
show
the mo-
you can do, the better the
And-
seller thinks you
And
are.
the more
Ooh.
options you have.
And I know, being a long-time real estate owner and even refinancing, if you have assets on top of just the real estate, you've got investment accounts, retirement accounts, life insurance. You have all this stuff in place. The lenders look at you favorably. They
Yeah.
go, wow, they have liquidity, and say in case something happens, we're going, that mortgage is going to be paid. So, working with a financial planner like myself, we go through that and teach you that. And it's hard. You don't do it overnight. You just change the way you think. Because we never really got schooled on financial planning or, what to do. Again, it's not polite to talk about, and definitely they don't talk about it in school because it brings up uncomfortable issues.
And it's so bad, I think. Like, in a society like this that we live in, people, especially kids, should be aware of.
Well,
You
see,
know.
if in schools, Johnny, dad's the doctor. Billy's dad's a truck driver. They're not, they don't want to bring up this income disparity,
Yeah.
and you talk to a teacher, and then they got this nice pension that they're not going to talk about. So it's just not it's just not a good
understand,
forum.
yeah.
And they typically say you learn this stuff either through your parents or self-taught. And that's really not a good plan, because my parents' financial situation and retirement situation is totally different than what I
Exactly.
have. And nowadays, the baby boomers, they're a wreck. They grew up in a me generation, where it's all remember the 60s and the self-development, it was all about
Right.
me. Well, that also has to do with what they want. They don't want to delay gratify. They want instant gratification. Sometimes, they'll have a family. It's like, well, you need life insurance to protect your family. Because if I'm gone, what do I care, right?
Yeah.
So that's
Right.
a different mentality. So learning how to deal with those type of personalities helps. So help me out here. We buying a home is a key component of making sure you have that long-term
Sure.
capabilities after you've demonstrated yourself to be able to save and have good credit.
It's a base.
Right. Oh, it's foundation.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
So I was just going to ask you, is that, as interesting as this, as long as we've been in the business, there are times that we have actually run into people who are in the same field as you. And we hear them say, don't buy real estate. They don't even recommend it to their clients. Don't you think that's interesting? That shows you, to me, that's a demonstration of how much stellar information you're giving to people. I think that. I think that telling someone or sharing with someone like you really don't need or want to buy any kind of real estate is not really an advisement I would give to anybody about anything. And I'm not a financial planner. That's just...
I actually know where that's coming from. So what's interesting about the financial planning universe is, one thing is I'm a comprehensive independent financial planning, meaning I'm not owned by any institution like a big blimp person or a wirehouse like an investment house like the Merrills and Morgans. See, real estate would be a competition for that dollar that they want to play with, and they're on a quota. And they're pressured to try to get as much dollars into their firm or sell them the biggest policy as they can. So that they're, unfortunately, when someone pays your paycheck and manages you, you can't really be unbiased, and you can't really, unfortunately, it leaks in that they have a quota and they have to perform a certain amount of, dollars. And when with clients, that kind of overrides their their advice. So sure, I don't directly benefit from a client, giving $50,000 or $250,000 for a down payment, but overall their life is going to be enriched. And that when you look at the big picture, and when we do have clients, we have them for life during the phases where they're saving money, right about to retire,
Right.
when they're going to have a succession plan or estate plan. We do all that. So we see the bigger picture, and we know by doing what's right for the client,
Right.
those clients will refer us to people they know and love and
Definitely.
that want this type of independent, unbiased type of advice. So they're not, giving, basically, if you can afford real estate, especially if primary for your primary residence, there's never a bad time to buy. Say, hey, but the market's up. So you're going to be there for
Yeah,
decades,
that's
and the
the-
market's going to go up, it's going to go down. It's still going to
That's the other thing.
appreciate.
They're afraid of the market fluctuations, but overall, like as a long-term investment, I don't think that is, it's one of the most solid investments you can make.
It's tangible.
Yeah.
It makes people feel good, and they can touch it, they can feel it, they can create memories. They can raise families. You get part of the community.
Definitely.
It's foundational. Yeah. So I always promote owning your primary residence. Sometimes people will go into buying additional real estate. They have a profession over here, and they want to do an avocation, another profession over here, and I tell them, look, that's another that's another big responsibility. Do you have the time and wherewithal and education to be able to do that well? That's where people get hurt.
Yeah.
Especially when it was the time when they were giving anybody mortgages. People were, hey, I'm gonna do
You had
well.
a pulse.
Yeah. So, but no, that it would be silly not to do the primary resident. Here's a couple other reasons. So when you get into a house, it's always tough because you see this mortgage payment that's more than your rent, and it's like, wow, that's a lot more money. But what happens if you get a fixed year, 30-year term mortgage, your payments stay the same. Guess what? But throughout time, your income's going to raise.
You're
most
making
likely.
more money.
One,
Yeah.
cost of living increases, merit increases. And what happens is your discretionary income starts to expand, and that's why I'm able to do more with those clients, because their housing expense doesn't always rise like rent. In rent,
Exactly.
your
That's what I
rent's
was
Stay
gonna
close
say.
to the mic so everyone can hear
Oh,
what you're
sorry.
saying about that. That was a really important thing.
Sorry.
That's
So-
exactly what I was gonna say. Like versus if you're renting,
Right.
the rent always is going up.
And then when people retire and they're renting, that's a big challenge, because one, you have to have your income continue to rise. You're not making anymore, so your
Yes.
investments have to rise, and you're putting additional strain on it. And to have your housing costs continue to rise while you're not working anymore is very stressful. And it's nice to have a predictable outcome to retire to. So, but you have to those decisions are done decades prior. So when you're young and you buy a home, the benefits are, again, another delayed gratification. So people have to be, educated about the benefits and make the sacrifices early on. Okay, so you don't get to go clubbing every night. You
Yeah.
have to save some of your money. But once you're in that property and
Well, you can always use part of your home as that club now.
oh, there you go.
Put the right system in, the right setup. Well,
Yeah, you throw home entertainment,
Let
throw
me-
barbecues.
Let me interrupt you right here. Just for those who are listening or watching us, our phone number, if they want to ask us a question or ask Patrick a question, is 818-570-5085. And you can also write us on our wall on Facebook, find us on
what's it
Twitter.
called again?
Glam Estates, Coco.
Oh.
Glamestates.com is our
checking.
website. And
Where can they find you, Patrick?
Yes.
Okay, I have an office in Burbank, California, on Glen Oaks and Providencia. It's a Union Bank building there. It's 601 South Glen Oaks, Suite 405. That's Burbank, California, and number's 818-668-8444. I have 20 people that work for our firm, and they're all independent financial planners. I'm also a planner, but I'm also executive director of consulting and a principal owner of the firm. So I'm highly invested, and
I'll say.
yeah, this is something I've always been passionate about. Once I made the decision to go into financial planning, it was elegant. It was an elegant transition because it just made sense. And one of the things we do is, this is the first time I've been on a radio program, but I've done lots of educational workshops. Yeah,
Patrick
my
is, the,
first.
Hey.
Patrick is the person to go to, for anyone who's seeking financial advice, planning and all that, retirement and all that.
And there's also an interesting cash flow consideration, and I'll speak slowly about this one. Some people don't get it.
Hey, stop talking about me. I'm right here.
So one of the benefits, there's you're not only owning the home, but you're financing the home, and it's debt, but we call it preferred debt because you get a tax benefit. The government tries to incent home ownership because there's big benefits to it. One, you
Very
become part
important.
of the community. People with homes raise families, and they're more connected, and it's good for society. But that tax benefit reduces your taxable income. So ironically, just earlier this week, I met with a new homeowner.
Mm-hmm.
They're moving into their home, and their tax situation is going to change dramatically. So, when we do a financial consultation, we'll look at taxes, paychecks. So he's a W-2 employee, and so they withhold with taxes. So they withhold like $27,000 for the year, and he had to pay $25,000. So he had a $2,000 refund. So
Okay.
yeah, pretty good. So, with the new situation with your mortgage interest being deducted and your property tax, which pays for schools and all that stuff, that gets deducted. Same amount of money, except he's only has to pay $17,000. So he's got over $9,000 of additional. If he just didn't change anything,
Mm-hmm.
he'd get a $9,600 refund.
Wow.
Well,
That's tremendous.
well, I don't like seeing someone getting a check for $9,600 thinking it's, hey, let's blow this.
Yeah.
So they can just change the exemptions on their paycheck.
I was just having a personal thought about it.
Yeah.
Me too. I was like, yeah.
Let's go on a trip. But
I was like, ding, ding, I know where I'm going.
but see, the problem with that is you withheld all this extra money. Did the government pay you interest on that money? No.
No.
Not a chance.
And you had to fill out paperwork just to get it back. It was your money.
Uh-huh.
They just withheld it and sent it to the government, and you have to plead with them to get it back. All you have to do is change the exemptions, and he was able to get $840 extra a month in his paycheck, meaning, and then at the end of the year he got a $1,400 refund. So that allows him, one, to afford the house better, but also allows him to start saving monthly a little additional income for, the remodel or the trip
Exactly.
or the retirement plan. So that's, so that actually creates money that he would normally be paying to the government. And I hope the government's not listening. But if that's okay
Me
with
too.
you, if that's okay with you, that I would recommend that. So, so you're now financing an appreciating asset. You have more net money per month. That's, prudent way to go. So that's a huge benefit for, I couldn't imagine not having, that type of, tax benefit. When I bought my first house, I was in 1992, and I needed a tax write-off because I was a W-2 person, and I was highly compensated, and that was the only tax write-off available to me. And I'm glad I did because, many years later, got married, raising a family in that same home. So I'm a user of the home
Right.
ownership philosophy.
Exactly. Of course.
Wow, that's great. My gosh. No, that's something that we try to do as well. When we have worked with a client, we also include with that a referral to, financial services. That's something that we like to make sure everyone is planning for. And especially we have people in every stage. That we have many times had a conversation with clients and friends where they say, oh, no, I'm only 25. I'm not going to think about it right now. Or, I'm only 36. Or I'm 59. It's too late. That we've had all these different dialogues, and I'm sure you can tell us better than I could. Great examples of when to start and why it's important. And is it ever too late? That's my first question.
Okay.
Is it ever
I'll
too late?
answer the too late question, but I'm going to also answer the, is it too early? And I'm trying to figure. I have a 9-year-old. Figure out when is the time to really teach her these things. Essentially, when someone starts making money, is when you need to teach them about cash flow, and budgeting. It's not, you need to know where your money goes. Most, there's people that go in, as long as I have money in my checking account, I can write a check, right? Not only that, but this is something that occurred to me when I got my first job. I made X, and in my mind I made X, and I spent X.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the gross. That's not your net.
Yes.
So there's a gap between the gross and the net. And when that happened, and in a year, I was in debt. It's like, whoa, how did that happen? So I had to, have a little talk to myself and said, this is not right. not only you have to look at what you made, but then the first thing you do after you see that, you take 15 to 20% off the table to pay yourself, save it. Okay, so for easy math, let's say you made $1,000. You take 150, take it off the table. Now you have 850 to make those decisions: how much home or rent, how much car, how much insurance, how much food. So you're living, they call it living within your means, living in that budget, and you're always saving. So when you get raises, you just make the percentages the same. You do that early on. You teach them that habit in 8, 6, 17, 18, always have money. They'll never be in money trouble because they'll have an emergency fund, they'll have long-term savings. This, whatever the goal is, they'll be in the habit. Because most people, are spending to this and they go, I forgot to save this month. It's not something that you have to, think about after the fact. You have to build it into your cash flow and build it into your process. So that's the first thing. So what happens typically in our culture, especially in Southern California, things cost a lot. Cars, homes, kids. So
groceries,
gas, all that stuff costs a lot. Lot of things vying for that dollar. When people get to about 50, they go, wow, I don't want to work that much more. How can I retire? And that's when they actually start thinking, what do I have in place for retirement? I've taken care of the kids been through college, I'm flat broke, but I got to stop working. And that's when they usually figure out, and you brought these papers because we can do some scenarios, is how much they're going to need to stop working. You look at all their retirement benefits and so what Social Security looks like, and they'll look at that, and they'll see this big, nest egg number that they're short of. So they'll have to super save. And it's not unusual for a 50-year-old after doing that to save 40% because they have to catch up. In fact, the tax code even acknowledges that. So right now in a 401k, the max you could put in for people under 50 is $18,000. Over 50, you can put another $6,000. So $24,000 a year. Guess what? They do that because usually when you're in your 50s, you start making money, and they're just trying to catch up.
Every time we speak, Patrick, you make me feel so bad about myself.
No. You're young. You got something.
But still, you remind me all the time. Every time we speak, we remind me.
No, actually it makes me feel the opposite. Like wherever that number is, it's like, it reminds me we're such the yin.
It reminds me of all the money that I spend, and I haven't saved.
Yeah, but you have so much time to do that.
That's one thing I can't give to people is time.
Yeah.
And there's that is a gift. Now, unfortunately, with time for some reason, the way we are wired is when we have the time, we're not either making the money or we're too immature to really do anything right with it. So as we age and we start getting a little wiser, our time bubble gets shorter. What's interesting, though, is, when you said 59 and a half, our life expectancy is long.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of great companies and things that have been started with people in their 50s. McDonald's, Ray Kroc started McDonald's at 55.
Did he?
Yeah.
Didn't realize that.
I didn't.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. There's I think KFC, the guy was in his 60s.
Really?
Yeah. The Colonel was.
Yeah.
He was selling door to door before that.
Selling a
door
recipe.
to door recipes.
So there's never too late.
He needed a retirement plan too.
Yeah, he got one. That's
for sure.
So it's never too late to create an enterprise, but we also have to realize that our life expectancies are extending. And I always tell this: the fastest growing age group by percentage is, what do you guess? What would you guess the age group if you were to say people turning 60, people turning 70? What's the fastest growing age group?
I don't
By
know.
percentage. People turning 100.
Really?
Yeah.
Centurions?
Yep. Well, it doesn't take much. If you have 5 and if you have 10 and 5, that's 50%. So
okay.
but there are more and more people living longer. So not only do you have to save the money, but you have to make sure you don't outlive it.
And we have one Blue Zone here. You know what Blue Zones are familiar with this? Blue Zone is the 5 locations on the planet where people are living past 100.
And here
and one of them, believe it or not, on the planet, there's one in Greece, one in Japan,
I think it's an
one
island.
in Italy. I wish your sister was here because I told her the name of the city that it was. somewhere else, and then Loma Linda, California.
Loma Linda?
Yeah.
Why is that?
Loma Linda, you're doing it, people, because it's their lifestyle. Because there's a huge community of
Dentists?
yes, as a matter of fact, it's the exact right answer.
They
Yes.
don't smoke. They eat properly. They live righteously.
They do.
and they do have a record of longevity. And
Yeah.
So there's a bunch of them in Loma Linda.
Yeah, so they're in one of the blue zones. So go figure. We've got one here in Southern California.
But Greeks smoke a lot. I don't know.
Apparently, in this town, they're not concerned.
Or breakfast.
There's
coffee.
no stress there. It's warm.
They said it had to do with also is that they're taking naps that
Yeah.
like cut down on their stress and their all kinds of health issues. So people are living longer. You're
See,
absolutely right.
we're talking about aging, aren't we?
Exactly.
I told
But
you.
this one's less painful.
Yeah. So back to homes.
Yeah.
And,
Well.
So not only did we, improve your cash flow, you're buying an appreciating asset, but in Southern California, it the last 30, 40 years, I usually say, real estate has typically grown between, 5 and 7%. Go, that's it? Well,
Over experience
30 to 40 years,
Yeah.
yes. And I usually let's go through, okay, when did your parents buy their house? What is it worth now? And it's, usually in the 5 to 7% range, which is still pretty good. So, let's say first-time home buyer gets out, not in the heart of LA, but outside, spends $350,000, right? And they're 30. So when they retire, let's say at 65, so that's 35 years from now, right? 35 years, and it appreciates 5%. That house is going to be worth $1.9 million. That's a nice.
That's
asset.
actually quite feasible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a nice asset.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So that's
Well, look at all the homes, and no one would have ever guessed that housing would be that. I mean, as you're buying it, it doesn't cross your mind. I know for sure. I can give the example of my parents. They bought the house.
I was going to say, Coco always loves to say the same story.
Oh, the great story. When my
About your family's house.
They were buying it for $18,000 when they had the big discussion of whether or not they wanted the 6 kids to have a place to swim. So they put in a pool. So they bought it and financed at $21,000. Anyway, that was 1971. Because they hadn't considered me coming in the picture at that point. So I guess it was 5 kids at that point. So anyway, 4 kids.
Well, I just did my numbers. I bought my house in 1992 for $230,000. It's now worth $700,000 in the Glendale foothills area, and it's 23 years, and that's 4.9, just a tad under 5%, and that's through big peaks, valleys. It's just
over time, yeah.
Over time, it's a predictable growth, and you don't have to worry about timing the market just right.
No, you don't.
You'll ride it out and it'll grow over time. And the same with investments and stuff. Because we do long-term planning, we're not trading. We're not trying to time the market. I got one phone call over this last. I don't know if you guys realize we had a correction, and there. That actually, it's more like what happened in 1987 versus 2008. Nothing fundamentally is wrong with our economy. People are kind of concerned with Greece. I mean, not Greece. Well, Greece is.
Well, there's the Greece.
Actually, the people in the know, Greece is like 247th largest world economy, something like that. You know what California is? 7th.
I knew it was the top 10, but
So
yeah.
It's a real small part of really.
We're getting there.
Yeah.
One step at a time.
So your audience know you're Greek, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I've told anyone. They know.
We have a whole discussion about financial advising for the Greek government. That's a different story altogether.
So so nothing's fundamentally wrong. So they do a correction, and that's what we're having, and everybody's fine with that. In fact, when the market goes down and they're buying, they're just accumulating low. So, but it's a long term, and no one's panicking because, they're not retiring for a decade or 2 or 3, depending on their age.
Absolutely. And I was going to ask you as well, when you're looking at having conversations with your clients, do you have, what's like the youngest account you have going on?
I have just turned 1.
The child just turned 1?
Yeah.
Very smart child.
Yeah.
Well,
What an open-minded kid.
I can tell already.
I've got a couple clients who give 529s is bridal gifts for newborns and stuff like that.
Tell our audience more about what a 529 is.
Okay, so 529 is anything with a number, like 529, 401k, 403b, 457. Those are paragraphs in our tax code, and it basically gives you some kind of tax favored treatment in the money that's in that plan, and there's rules attached. So actually the 529C is actually a municipal tax. I mean, it's a state tax, so they're authorized through individual states, and there's a whole litany of available accounts. In California, basically when you open it at 529, it could be from any state. The money that goes in there never gets taxed as long as it's used for secondary college related expenses, room, boarding, books, and you can put a lot of money in it, up to like $330,000. So I call those great grandparent accounts, because if you've got grandparents or that have an estate that's going to be taxed, they can spend down and gift it, and in one transaction each grandparent can put in 60 grand, so 120 grand into the college fund. And what's nice is they can own it and the child's the beneficiary. So it's never officially the child's money, but it's going to be used for their behalf. Yes. And if that child doesn't go to college, you can change the beneficiary, and they could be the beneficiary. So it's a nice, it's a nice way to, nice incentive, so you don't, are growing money that's not going to be taxed. So we typically, most people would say, okay, there's lots of ways to pay for college. We want to make sure you have retirement handled, and then we'll take care of the college, because you can get grants, loans, whatnot, scholarships, whatnot. But people are very emotional on newborns, and they really want to do something. So instead of buying them a toy that they'll throw away in a month, they can open up a college account and then just let the family know, hey, she's got a college account, and instead of the latest toy that's going to break, you could just put some money into this.
The best gift.
Yeah.
And how much is the smallest amount you can put in there?
It's $25.
Wow.
Once you open the account, yeah.
That's great. Wow. Okay. So when you're, let's say we send you someone. Let's just say someone is connected with you, and they're 35 years old, and they're, they have no retirement in their future, or certainly have never thought about it in their past, and they come to you. What would be an example of how we would help them understand a number they could keep in mind they need to have in assets? It's like my favorite calculated game.
Right.
Do it again, Patrick. Go ahead.
Well, we take them through a consultation. And
this is fun, you guys. It's great.
And it's special methodology. Okay, so we look at where they are today, what they have, what their cash flow, income, and expenses, and we discuss obviously financial goals, because everything we do is about getting what you want. And sometimes they might not know what their goals are, so I pull it out of them. If they don't have a house, do you want a house? Well, I thought about it, but I don't see the reason why. Well, then that's an educational opportunity, isn't it? And then they go, wow, I definitely want to do that. I like to travel. Well, how do you travel? Well, I go someplace, put it on a credit card, and then I'm paying it off for the next 12 months. And you go, how would you like to save before that, so you'll have money and you won't have this, so when you do the credit card bill, you just pay it off, and you're not in debt. So let's get in front of it. Let's be proactive. So we go through all their goals. And then one goal that everybody has that they don't think about, especially when they're young, and it's retirement. They don't even know what that word is, so I just call it financial independence. Wouldn't it be nice to be in a situation where you could do anything you want, right? And that's financial independence.
That's what I'm waiting.
We're all
That's what I'm waiting.
We're all listening, holding our breath.
So it's hard to imagine, okay, well, how much money do you need? Well, instead of guessing what, if they're making X, what Y would be like, I said, okay, what if we recreated what you're making now? And when they're young, they realize, look, even now I'm not, dining every night, traveling the world, let's say I'm 35 years old, right? Are they married?
Sure.
Yes.
Okay. So
35, yeah.
35
You
years.
answer the next question. You pick one.
Okay. And if they're married, typically, let's say he's making 6,000, she's making 4, or vice versa. Then,
Okay.
there's no one makes more than the other. Actually, it's interesting nowadays. there used to be a time when men made money and the women spent it, and she had the spending problem. He was trying to save it.
Do you see the opposite now?
Well, now it's men buy bigger stuff. They buy toys and Sea-Doos. Now, is Sea-Doo, is that an appreciating asset or depreciating asset? Depreciating. In fact, you see,
I don't even appreciate those.
Right.
So there's no method. It goes both ways. She'll be the saver and money maker, and he would be the spender. They both be savers. It's a wild world out there.
Right.
And what's interesting is, the biggest stress in many relationships, the most frequent cause of divorce is finances.
Mm-hmm.
They just that causes a lot of stress and.
In every relationship.
Yep. It's one thing that when we do with couples is I spend a lot of time making sure they're both on the same page. So if you have a couple that are on the same page, they know where they're going, and we put a plan to get there, and you eliminate that stressor, they can thrive. And I've had many clients, that over the years, even the first clients I had that were okay, they started their first job, we got them on an accumulation plan. But what ends up happening, and I don't know if this is scientific or not, but there's no negative energy towards that money anymore. In fact, they're happy about it. They get statements, their accounts are growing, they're contributing, and all of a sudden they feel good about it, and good things start happening about money. They start earning more money. They get promotions.
Law of attraction.
Law of attraction. And I've seen it. If you got good magnetic energy about it, there's no reason why you can't thrive. And I have dozens of clients that are just thriving because they feel good about it. So we got them on the same page, and let's say between both of them they're grossing $10,000 a month. See that? $10,000. Now what we do as part of this consultation is we'll say, okay, let's just assume average retirement age is 65. It's kind of pushing to 67, but I'm going to use 65 because that's full retirement at Social Security. And that's 30 years from now. All right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're making 10 grand a month at 35. At 65, we have to figure out how much money we need to have the same buying power of that $10,000.
To maintain the lifestyle of today.
Right. Now we have to factor in this thing called inflation.
Mm-hmm.
And historically, inflation, basically is the cost of goods or services going up over time.
Always.
And actually, over the last 30 years, if you were to guess inflation, what would you guess annually what it would average?
1 point.
Oh, it's low now, but you weren't around in the 70s and 80s.
Oh, wow. Well, yeah, that was...
It was double
I was in
digit.
the 80s. I was not in the 70s.
late 70s.
Could you give him a new number, please? Really? He really needs it after that.
And
4%. That's my number now.
Okay,
that's the number I picked.
3 to 5%.
Oh, okay.
So we can use 4%. And the government calculates consumer price index, which is kind of a default for measuring inflation. So, they get highly affected if there's a lot of inflation. All the Social Security payments go up, Medicare payments go up, entitlements go up, and cost billions of dollars. So they end up taking things that seem to be inflationary, like gas and housing. That's That's not calculated in the CPI. So I always find that pretty interesting. So they always show recently a very low inflation rate. But I don't know about you, but things seem to cost more. My insurance isn't more. Food.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So the question is, if we're going to use 4% inflation for the next 30 years, how much more money will we need to make to be able to buy the same goods and services? 2 times, 3 times?
$10 billion.
No. Give me a guess. 2 times, 3 times?
10,000,
30 years.
4 times.
Okay, that's a good one. 4%.
If it's 4%, 4 times.
Scientific? It's 32,433. So it's just over 3 times.
Right.
And some people just say, that's crazy. No way. $32,000 a month just to be able to buy the goods and service that I make today at 10.
That's how life is going to be in 30 years from now.
And
no one could predict the past, so.
Predict the future.
Well, I mean now, but I mean, I was saying like nobody thought about that 30 years ago, what the number would be like today.
Right. 30
Never
years
crossed
ago.
their mind it could be correct.
Wow, a burger is going to cost $15 to $20.
Well,
Yeah,
you guys are going
actually.
to make more money if you're 30 years from now. that $350,000 house is going to be 1.9 million.
Right.
And that's just going to be a starter home.
Yeah.
Oof. So anyway,
Everybody needs to get educated. This is what we need to help them with, for sure. Yeah.
so one of the examples I use is, 30 years ago, if you bought a stamp, it'd be 6 cents. So if you had $1, that's 16 stamps and 4 cents left over.
Mm-hmm.
That same dollar, how many stamps can you buy?
Today,
Two.
2. So that's 8 times more. So 3 times is not asking that much. Now, the 32,000, where are you going to get that money from?
Where? From your
The car.
Well, don't forget we have
Cash out the car.
we have Social
Just kidding.
Security, right? That's not any close to 32,000. So you have to, if you have a pension or savings. So
Investments.
if you're 35 right now, we kind of tell people, well, if Social Security's there, you can
Mhm.
pay your cable bill. But we're not going to plan that it's going to be there because there's a lot of stress on it. A lot of people, there's like, I don't know, for every retiree, there used to be like 30 people supporting them, and now it's like 3 to 1. The numbers are really getting difficult. So in order to generate that type of income, you need at least $3.2 million.
Wow.
You need to be a millionaire. And, for someone that's, they're making 10 grand a month to go, what? The good thing is they have 30 years. So we usually start a simple savings plan and a vehicle that I like a lot for young couples. The 10 grand a month they qualify for is like a Roth IRA.
Yeah.
And this will feed into your real estate need. Is with the Roth IRA, they put after-tax money in, it grows tax-free, and you pull it out tax-free. It's a retirement plan meant to be 59 and a half for a 35-year-old to go, ooh, that's not fun.
Mhm.
However, you can tap into it for down payment on your first-time home and for college expenses. Penalty-free, tax-free.
Right.
So that allows people an incentive to save, not for their home, and we'd also put some additional money on the side if they were in a hurry. But it serves many purposes, and it also gets them to start saving something. And it's usually kind of the first thing they start, and then if they can fit that in, then we'll look at other items of need that they might have if they have kids and whatnot.
Wow.
There's things that they need to protect them. So basically, everybody needs to know. So this couple, their number is $3.2 million. I'm 53 and my number is 3.5. So that's a lot of money. But you know what? I'm in the business. I'm tracking it. And the big thing about
It doesn't mean you have to have a 3.5 million available at this moment.
No,
It means
no.
you're investing it into something that's going to generate that for you as
Right.
you're going. Wow,
things-
that's really helpful.
Appreciating assets, right? So, are they going to do this into the bank? I don't think so.
I feel like I have to start running.
I know, right? Like, hurry.
So we only have a couple of minutes
Oh
left.
wow, this time's
It's
flying.
exactly. It's
I
like
know,
Sorry,
exactly.
I saw the clock and, and I thought it was
Exactly,
like we were like only 15 minutes in.
No.
All right, I'll let you guys direct it from here.
You should definitely be back again, Patrick.
Yeah, we
Thank
look.
you for
Well,
your
if you have
information.
people that have questions and they feel like they can't get ahead, there's definitely strategies to look where the
Right.
money's going. A lot of times we find money, like found $800 a month for the home buyer just by changing some withholdings because of their tax situation change, and that's a lot of times in the mass affluent, it's tough. So we have to create ways of saving money, and sometimes you might be spending too much on homeowners insurance or
Right.
Oh,
car
yeah.
insurance, or
For sure.
we know how much those things cost, and if it's way out of line, it's like let's shop it, and the difference will just save.
Right.
So
Wow.
I like Patrick because he has the same mindset as ours. He likes to help people achieve their goals, and he likes to educate people as well.
that's basically my charter. We once we find the number, we roll up our sleeves and say, okay, how do we get from here to here? And let's look at ways of doing that without killing your lifestyle. If I
Right.
can, get them savings without changing what they're doing, that's a win-win for everybody.
Yeah.
And not plugging them into a particular product versus
Oh no.
you have such a diversified accounts you have available that people can get into just about everything.
Yeah,
I
and
really appreciate that.
and once we have a client that goes through this and we ask, look, we spend a lot of time educating our clients and working with them. We don't have a lot of time to just market for clients, and we don't cold call or anything. So if you know people that we can work with, referrals are huge for us because we're a high trust business in a low trust industry. No one trusts financial services. But in order for me to do my job, I need you to trust me because you're going to disclose all your information, your income, your taxes, your investments, your debt, everything. So that's a high trust situation.
We're in the same boat. We're in an industry where there's low trust, but you have to trust us a lot in order to move forward. We've been very fortunate and very blessed that we can work with people who have a similar mindset, and it's not easy for us to open the door to just about everybody that we would say, hey, you can speak with this gentleman, you can speak with this lady. It's not easy because people don't always stay on track, but we can say that about you, Patrick. We really appreciate you coming through here today and sharing with us a little bit more with our audience about what they can expect and not to be afraid. And we appreciate that you're open your door for this kind of an educational dialogue because so many people just don't know, it's that close. And it's so nice to know that there's hope for everybody.
Oh, yeah.
Even us.
So,
Even us. Just kidding.
So everyone plan ahead and
Yeah.
call Patrick.
Appreciating assets. Look
That's
at,
right.
when
Appreciating.
we're about to buy something, you ask yourself, will this grow in value? Is that 60-inch TV going to grow in value? Probably not.
Right.
Again, something I appreciate, but still.
In 6 months, it's going to be the new model, and that one is going to worth half. That's exactly what happens.
That's right.
Fantastic.
Thank you, Patrick, and thank you all
so
for
much,
tuning
everybody.
in. Until our next one, glam it up, baby.
Do-do-do-do.
Wow. That was fun. God, that went fast.
You're listening to Glam Estates Radio with your hosts Coco and Gregory, right here on LA Talk Radio.